What is going on, all you fellow gamers and meme creators? Michael the Meme King back again for another video from the wonderful YouTuber Man vs. History. Now listen, if you guys don't know who this guy is or who I am, then you guys just are not living your life. Look for this guy's channel, subscribe to him, get him to 20 point something K subscribers. Let's help this guy grow and help me grow at the same time. Please show this guy some love, and yeah, also like this video, like his video, and make sure you check out this guy's other videos. I'll put his channel in the link below or in the description. I'll put it somewhere. I'll put it somewhere in the video, but it will probably be in the description. I will also put a link on this video. I'll put it in the description as well. Just so you guys can find it if you are interested in reacting to this yourself. But yeah, I think that's all I really need to say. You guys should know the deal about all this by now. I do not own this. I do not own any part of this video or this guy's channel whatsoever. This is all his work. So go to Man vs. History's channel and show him some love, and let's try and avoid YouTube copywriting me again, because you know, I don't like getting copyrighted and I don't want to get copyrighted. And hopefully no ads show up, but I can't make no promises. So we are just gonna get straight into this, and also like and subscribe to the video if you did enjoy mine and Man vs. History's video. But yeah. Anyway, also comment the video and please tell me what else you guys want to see on the channel. I want to know. I really do want to know what you guys want to see on the channel, because I have one game, but I gotta see what it's all about. I have to kind of like see the controls before I go viewing this on the channel, because if it's a crappy game, then I'm not going to view it on the channel. But anyway, that's enough talk. Yeah, like and subscribe to the video, and show Man vs. History some love. Try and get him to 20K subscribers. And yeah, let's just get straight into this.
What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the historical appearance and clothing of Native Americans.
Turn that all the way up.
What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the historical appearance and clothing of Native Americans in the American West, which you can use to create a historically accurate Native American character in Red Dead Online. Now, before starting what has been by far the most requested topic, I want to acknowledge that people have differing opinions, so I just want to be clear in my intentions in making this video, particularly in the current social and political climate. As a history professor, I'm approaching this topic from a place of education and respect and admiration for Native cultures. This is a game set in the American West, and natives are a big part of that story. As such, I hope this video inspires folks to both honor and show respect to Native cultures by giving them the knowledge to depict them in Red Dead Online as historically accurate as possible. Alright, let's get started. To To answer this question, I dug deep into the archives and located the Office of Indian Affairs annual report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs for the year 1898. Starting on page 598, the report contains a section providing detailed statistics from different agencies across the American West on the clothing worn by tribal members. They divided said attire worn by natives on the reservations into three categories: citizens' dress, what we colloquially call European clothing, white man's clothing, or as one 1898 newspaper put it, paleface garb; traditional dress, such as native buckskin attire; and partial dress, a mixture of both citizens and traditional dress. After combining sub-tribes into their full respective tribes and inputting this data into an Excel spreadsheet, I was able to calculate the exact percentages of clothing categories worn by different tribes in 1898. Now, to my knowledge, this has never been done, likely because nobody really had a reason to do it. But I know many of you folks want to know which tribes wore what in 1898 in order to design a historically accurate native character. So I made it happen. Now, in the interest of time, I'll only go over a dozen or so tribes, but those I selected are among the most famous in the history of the American West. Let's start with the Apache. In 1898, according to reservation records, 13% were attired in full citizens' dress, 50% wore partial dress, and 37% continued to wear traditional dress. As for the Blackfeet, 99% wore full citizens' dress, and only 1% wore partial dress. None wore traditional dress. As for the Cheyenne, 25% wore full citizens' dress, 73% wore partial dress, and 2% continued to wear traditional dress. Next up are the Comanches and Kiowas. As both tribes were historical allies, often intermingled, and were placed on the same reservation, the report of the commissioner combined their data together. In these tribes, only 3% wore full citizens' dress, 78% wore partial, and 19% still continued to wear traditional dress. As for the Crow, 25% wore citizens' dress, and 75% wore partial dress. None wore traditional attire in 1898. As for the Navajo, none, zero, zilch, nada, wore full citizens' clothing in 1898. Only 5% wore partial dress, and a whopping 95% continued to wear traditional dress. Next up are the Nez Perce. In 1898, 14% wore full citizens' dress, 85% wore partial dress, and only 1% wore traditional dress. Now to the Pawnee. In 1898, 28% wore full citizens' dress, 21% wore partial, and 51% wore traditional. As for the Ute, about 38% wore citizens' dress, 48% wore partial dress, and 14% wore traditional dress. And last, but certainly not least, we'll look at the Great Sioux Nation. As a whole, 77% wore full citizens' dress in 1898, 18% wore partial dress, and 5% wore traditional dress. Amongst the sub-tribes, the greatest outliers were the Rosebud Sioux, with only 38% citizens' dress, 43% partial, and 19% traditional. Now, with all this said, we need to remember a couple important things. To start, part of the native annuities, that is the ongoing payment of money or goods to natives by the federal government in exchange for their lands, included shipments of clothing. As you might guess, this clothing was often citizens' dress. As such, many natives may have simply worn citizens' dress because it was free and available. But we also know that a number of natives preferred the advantages of clothing made from cotton and wool, which was warmer in winter and cooler in summer than their traditional skins. We also have evidence that there are often issues with the shipments of clothing being shoddily made by vendors contracted through the Office of Indian Affairs. Such problems might have inspired tribes to stick more with their traditional attire, or maybe the effect was negligible. Hard to say. We must also remember that on some reservations in 1898, natives were encouraged to wear full or partial citizens' dress, which likely affected these numbers. This was in line with an erosion of native tribal identity, culture, and property in the late 1800s, stemming from the Dawes Act and the Curtis Act, among other government initiatives. In time, many natives exchanged their traditional culture for the white man's ways, adopting his religion, Christianity, occupation, farming, and even wearing his clothes. While native children were immersed in white culture through Indian boarding schools, being forced to cut their hair and adopt citizens' dress, large-scale crackdowns on traditional native dress, including hair length and face paint, did not occur within the adult native population until after it was put in policy by the Office of Indian Affairs in 1902, at which point, according to a February article in the Chickasaw Daily Express, the Commissioner of Indian Affairs issued an order which compelled, quote, all male Indians in the United States to have their hair cut frequently, or at least not to wear it long. The article continues by stating that the Commissioner also prohibited natives of, quote, both sexes from painting their faces and forms, and, quote, encouraged the Indians in adopting citizens' clothing instead of the Indian costume and blanket. Their words, not mine. To get the natives to fall into line, the commissioner suggested, quote, withholding supplies from recalcitrant Indians until they comply, and the discharge of those, referring to non-complying natives, who were employed by the government. Quote, if any Indian becomes obstreperous about the matter, a short confinement in the guardhouse will effect a cure. Speaking of cure, what is this? Uncle! Sorry, back on track. Again, these crackdowns on clothing, hair, and face paint weren't mandated until 1902. As such, natives in 1898 had more freedom in the way they dressed, or at least less repercussions. So it gives folks a bit more wiggle room when it comes to designing their character. Well, this would depend on whether or not they're wearing full citizen's dress, partial dress, or traditional dress. By 1898, natives had been placed on reservations for 2 decades. According to newspaper reports at the time that were working off the data supplied by the annual report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, there were 297,906 natives in North America in 1898. Of that, 95,675, or 32%, had adopted full citizen's dress. This would include a pullover cotton shirt, wool pants, jacket, vest, tie, and hat. Alright, we'll start with shirts. In Red Dead Online, there's no perfect shirt, but the collar over shirt and the everyday shirt are the closest options. As for colors, white was the most common, but other popular colors were gray or light blue. For pants, I'd recommend black tuxedo pants or clerk pants. For a jacket, the black worsted coat is the most historically accurate. While we're short on appropriate vest options, the black Lancer vest, Ridgefield vest, traditional vest, or the Paisley vest is close enough. As for a tie, go with the black ascot or tech scarf. Finally, for a hat, pick up the black derby or a black flat-brimmed stocker hat. Another historical option is to get a tan military scout hat and pair it with a matching tan neckerchief. The 1898 annual report of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs states that 31,923 natives, about 11%, were attired in partial dress, which took a variety of forms. This might include a white pullover cotton shirt and wool vest, combined with wool or buckskin leggings and moccasins. Sometimes it could just be a traditional pullover cotton shirt that's been embellished with fringes and beadwork, or a wool vest that has been heavily ornamented. Other times it was wholly citizen's dress, but with traditional jewelry and moccasins. We see this in the book Trails of a Wilderness Wanderer, where author Andy Russell writes about natives he met in the early 1900s. In his words, quote, the men wore nondescript white man's clothing. Most of them still used moccasins, but the feathered and furred headdresses had been largely replaced by hats. The men still wore their hair long and in braids. In Red Dead Online, partial dress can be achieved in a variety of ways. Here's example number 1, modeled after tribes of the Great Plains. As there are no leggings in the game, a big oversight by Rockstar in my opinion, I substituted them for the Alvarado chaps and the leather pants, which suffices. I then paired these with the brindle moccasins. Up top, I'm wearing the everyday shirt in white, a black traditional vest, along with a red neckerchief. It's important to note that many natives wore cotton shirts with a variety of patterns, so you can't go too wrong mixing and matching shirts and neckerchiefs here. Here's another option, example number 2, modeled after Apache partial dress. I took the plata pants and combined them with the Cibola boots, but maintained the same upper body combo that I had in the previous outfit. That is, the everyday shirt in white, black traditional vest, and a red neckerchief. As the Apache typically wore headbands, but Red Dead Online does not yet offer them, I improvised with the black woolen hat, which still looks pretty good. Historically, the Apaches wore neckerchiefs in a variety of colors, and while most shirts were white and worn untucked at tunic length, something we still can't do, there's a number of photographs showing Apaches wearing darker ones as well. As such, feel free to mix and match these components in different colors. For example, here you can see an Apache variation where I simply switched to a navy frontier shirt, black neckerchief, and different colored plata pants and Cibola boots. Lots of options here, so have fun with these combinations. For example number 3, I created a common partial dress for natives across the American West. For this, I chose the brindle moccasins and the leather pants as an alternative to proper leggings. Additionally, I added the Goodman gun belt, as natives were notorious for having intricately decorated belts. Up top, I have the everyday overshirt in white and the stalker hat in black. And in case you're wondering, yes, most natives wore their shirts fully buttoned. According to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs report, 170,303 natives, about 57%, continued to wear traditional clothing in 1898. It's important to note that traditional clothing worn by natives depended upon a variety of factors, from the climate to the season to the natural resources and materials available to each area or region. While many articles of clothing overlap between tribes, some attire, accoutrements, and ornamentation were more associated with specific tribes or sub-tribes. Now, with that said, let's dive in. In warmer months, most natives across the West didn't wear shirts at all, only wearing a breech clout, a strip of leather or fabric running from front to back between the legs, or a loincloth which simply hung in front and back, combined with moccasins and optional leather leggings. In colder months, leggings were much more common, along with a simple deerskin tunic to cover the upper body. To this, many tribes would add a wearing blanket, that is, a blanket wrapped around the waist. We see these in numerous native portraits from the period, likely due to their utilitarianism, being able to be worn around the waist or slung up over one or both shoulders when desired. This is very similar to the belted plaid, the standard item of men's Highland dress in Scotland from the late 15 to 1700s, which was used as both a garment and bedding when sleeping on the ground. Back in the American West, some of these wool blankets used by natives were produced by shepherding tribes in the Southwest, particularly the Navajo, but most came from white traders and fur trading companies such as the Hudson's Bay Company, the Northwest Company, the Missouri Fur Company, and the American Fur Company. While it should be noted that these blankets are not technically traditional native attire, again outside the shepherding societies of the Southwest, I still place them under traditional native dress as they've been utilitarian accessories amongst Western natives for centuries. Beyond wool blankets, most natives in the American West wore animal robes in the fall and winter. These differed by region and available resources, but most Plains natives wore buffalo robes, while others wore robes of antelope, elk, or other small animals pieced or woven together. Now, all this said, it must be noted that many natives rotated between all three styles of clothing as preference or circumstances dictated. We see this with famous natives such as Quanah Parker, Geronimo, Sitting Bull, Red Cloud, and Gall, who at different points in time were photographed in traditional, partial, and citizens' clothing. In Red Dead Online, traditional dress can be achieved in a variety of ways. Here's a generic setup that could apply to many tribes in the American West, and just to note, the plot of pants work great for this as well. As you can see, I kept everything below the waist the same as we had it with our Great Plains partial dress, which would make sense as those components were all traditional. I just removed the clothing from the upper body. If it looks a bit bare up top, you can blame Rockstar, as they leave us no options to properly replicate historically accurate native accessories such as necklaces, armbands, bracelets, paint, or various other items. In place of necklaces, you can add a neckerchief to match your leggings, or in place of bracelets, a pair of leather wrist cuffs, or, as the game calls them, gauntlets. But as is, these aren't historically accurate components of traditional native dress. Additionally, because the game currently lacks blanket wraps and buffalo robes, you can substitute the latter for the Taronka coat in dark brown, or the bison duster, either of which work well enough. If you want your character to wear a shirt, the most accurate to the traditional deerskin tunic is the stringham shirt. At this point, adjusting your hairstyle can also make your character more tribe specific, but we don't have to get into that now as we'll be covering hairstyles and accessories later in the video. As a general rule, Native women of all tribes wore more clothing than men. When it comes to traditional dress for Native women, the most typical garment was the one-piece sleeveless dress, usually made from elk or deer skins. This style was used by most tribes in the American West. Exceptions include the Cheyenne, Osage, and Pawnee women who wore a two-piece garment consisting of a deerskin skirt and a cape, a form typical of the woodland Indians of the eastern U.S. Regardless of the tribe, almost all natives embellished these dresses, particularly the yoke, that is, the upper area around the neck and shoulders. This would be ornamented with animal teeth, shells, carved bones, porcupine quills, bits of metal, coins, and/or brightly colored glass beads acquired from traders. Such embellishments were sometimes merely aesthetic in nature, but they sometimes carried deeper meaning, such as identifying a woman's tribe, marital status, or indicating the hunting prowess of her family members. Other embellishments, like leather fringe at the cuffs and bottom, or hemline, also served utilitarian purposes. In the case of fringe, it made clothes clothes dry faster. How this worked is that gravity would pull rainwater and moisture down into the fringe, which was always located at the bottom or underside of the clothing. As the fringe moved, moisture worked its way to the tips, and the swaying motion of the leather strips rapidly sped up evaporation. Sure, it looks cool, but now you understand its real purpose. In the American West during the late 1800s, women's citizens' dress was usually composed of a high-neck, long-sleeve dress that ran to the ankle, though it should be noted that native women tended to cut the skirts slightly higher, ending between the knee and shin, the same length as their traditional deer and elkskin dresses. These came in a variety of fabrics, most common in cotton and wool, but also silk, and sported patterned, striped, and solid designs. As for colors, the majority tended to be darker shades, particularly when it came to solid designs. The other common citizen's dress was two-piece, composed of a long cotton or wool skirt that stretched to the ankle, combined with a long-sleeve button-up cotton or wool collared shirt. As for colors, the skirts tended to be dark, usually navy, gray, or brown, and the shirts were much lighter, often white. As for partial dress, native women tended to add wearing blankets, ornamental belts, and various native jewelry, particularly necklaces, to their citizen's dress. Additionally, they maintained their traditional moccasins. Since I don't have a female character in Red Dead Online, I regrettably cannot try on or assess female clothing options from the Wheeler and Rawson catalog in the same way I do with the men's clothing. However, I trust that you will still find this guide useful in separating out the historically accurate options from the inaccurate. Now, there's a variety of special clothing and accessories that Rockstar could and should add in order to better replicate the historical appearance and culture of Native Americans. In addition to necklaces, armbands, bracelets, etc., here are some other items. War shirts were powerful sacred garments worn by Native American men. What makes them so significant is that a man had to earn the right to wear it by repeatedly proving himself through extreme acts of bravery in combat, selfless character, wisdom, strength, and concern for the welfare of his tribe. Once a warrior achieved the war shirt honor, they were still required to follow a strict code of conduct and continued bravery, otherwise the shirt could be revoked. War shirts were of the same cut as the traditional male tunic and would be made of deer, elk, or bighorn sheepskin. All war shirts had 4 embroidered strips, one over each shoulder, and one running down each sleeve, decorated with beadwork, quillwork, or a combination of both techniques. These shirts were most commonly embellished with scalp locks under the arms, which gave these shirts not only a menacing appearance, but also another name, scalp shirts. Interpretations vary, but the scalps are said to be from slain enemies, taken from the warrior's own locks, or gifted from the wearer's family. In place of human hair, other war shirts had ermine skin tubes, weasel skins, running under the arm, or simply leather fringe, though the latter projected lower status than the former two. Some shirts were painted with pictographs or colored designs varying between the tribe, period, or place of origin. The Lakota, or Teton Sioux, often painted their shirts yellow and blue, or yellow and green. Other tribes left their shirts undyed, or just used a single color, which was gradually lightened as it went from top to the bottom. Most colored war shirts were brown, green, and red, and less commonly blue or black. As war shirts were earned through extraordinary bravery, discipline, and dedication to one's tribe, it bestowed immense social status upon the wearer by all who saw him. I think Rockstar has an opportunity here to put war shirts in the game, but do so in a meaningful, respectful, and historically accurate way. For example, have them locked behind a high honor threshold, combined with requirements of completing a variety of tailored in-game challenges and immense accomplishments. Things that should take us months of effort. And once unlocked, let those who earned war shirts customize the colors, fringe type, beadwork, etc., so it's a personalized, meaningful accomplishment that characters can proudly display. Now, it might just be me, but this is the type of stuff I'd like to see added to the game. Hairpipe breastplates were coveted articles among many native tribes on the Great Plains and Rocky Mountain West, equal in value to a good horse. Prior to the reservation period, beginning around 1880, hairpipe breastplates were worn by the Comanche, Kiowa, Kiowa Apache, Ponca, and Pawnee in the South, the Arapaho and Cheyenne in Oklahoma, Wyoming, and Montana, the Lakota or Teton Sioux of the Dakotas, and the Ute west of the Rockies. After 1880, the reservation system put a stop to intertribal warfare and ushered in a period of friendly interaction between previously hostile groups. As a result, hairpipe breastplates spread amongst a number of other tribes, including the Nez Perce and the Shoshones. However, the Crows showed little interest in the hairpipes of their former enemies, and they were also rare among the Blackfeet. That might also be because the Blackfeet preferred a necklace of grizzly bear claws, which denoted the wearer as a distinguished man of bravery. In time, this necklace also became popular amongst other tribes as well. It's not hard to imagine why. Many tribes, especially southwestern tribes like the Apache, Navajo, and Pueblo, wore cloth headbands often acquired through white traders. Famously, Apache scouts recruited by the U.S. Army beginning in 1871 wore red headbands to distinguish themselves from hostiles, thereby avoiding instances of friendly fire during battle. Why such a simple accessory isn't available in the game, I can't tell you. Amongst natives, particularly tribes of the Great Plains, eagle feathers were a mark of great honor, given to individuals in acknowledgement of a significant accomplishment, often acts of valor in battle. As each feather acknowledged a great deed, it's from this practice that we get the expression, a feather in his cap. These feathers were either worn or displayed on a pole used for ceremonial purposes. If an individual amassed enough eagle feathers, they were made into a headdress or war bonnet. Because the greater the number of feathers in a headdress, the more accomplished the person, a common misconception developed that is still prevalent today. That is, the idea that only chiefs would wear them. As chiefs would certainly be amongst the most accomplished members of their tribes, most certainly did wear them. Yet some accomplished warriors who were not chiefs also earned them and wore them as well. As a whole, however, full headdresses were usually reserved for tribal leadership. Again, Rockstar has an opportunity here to implement feathers into the game in a meaningful, respectful, and historically accurate way by locking a single feather behind tailored challenges and accomplishments. Once unlocked, allow players to display the feather or feathers in their hat, on a pole at their camps, or on a lance, bow, or saddle. Accumulate a certain number and players can craft a small war bonnet. Accumulate dozens and they can make a full headdress. To avoid cowboys riding around in headdresses, maybe there's even a way to reserve these war shirts, hairpipe breastplates, and other items to native characters only by linking the heritage types option in the character creation screen to a native tech tree that gives them access to heritage specific weapons, saddles, accessories, canoes, camps, dwellings, and so forth. Or maybe folks just want a wide open sandbox where anyone can be, wear, or do anything. It's not my call, just an idea. Native tribes wore their hair in a variety of ways, and while there were common styles among specific tribes, there were always exceptions. So, with that said, most men from Plains tribes, particularly the Great Sioux Nation, wore their hair very long and loose, wore their hair long in two-braid fashion, while most women of these tribes parted their hair in the middle and wore it in two-braid fashion. Amongst the Navajo, most men wore their hair loose at medium length, often just touching the shoulder, while the women grew their hair long and typically tied into a ponytail. The Apaches tended to grow their hair long and wore it loose. Although a southern tribe, Comanche men wore their hair in long two-braid fashion, while the women wore theirs loose at a short or medium length and parted down the middle. Similar to the Comanche, most northern tribes, such as the Blackfeet, wore their hair long in two-braid fashion as well. Most men of the Crow tribe cropped their hair on the top of their heads and spiked it straight up and left the sides long, usually braided. Some members of the Blackfoot, Western Dakota, also known as the Yankton Sioux, Kiowa, and others trained a forelock to hang down over their forehead and nose. Tribes such as the Pawnee, Omaha, and Osage cropped or shaved the sides of their head, leaving a single ridge or tuft of hair at the top. Lewis and Clark noted in their journals that some members of the Oglala Sioux, a subtribe of the Lakota, also known as the Teton Sioux, shaved the sides of their heads as well. Again, it's important to remember that there are always exceptions to these trends, and that hairstyles were often embellished with feathers, animal fur braid wraps, beads, and other items. Alright, now that you folks have all this information, I wish you the very best in designing your own historically accurate Native American character. I'll see you on the trail. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I just have to tell you, we just celebrated having 10,000 subscribers, and now we have 15,000, and I don't even know what happened there. But I have to thank you folks. So thank you so much for believing in this channel, for really building this thing up. We got so much awesome stuff coming down the pipe for this channel. You're gonna love it. So thank you guys for everything. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell too, because that way you know when the videos are actually coming out. But anyway, thank you folks so much. You have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time.
So yeah, he basically just did my outro for me. I'll say it again in case you didn't hear. Like and subscribe to the video, his and mine. Comment the video and tell me what you want to see from my channel. And check Man vs. History out on his channel and just react to his stuff and try and grow his channel out too. But try and grow this one out too. I'm trying to help, and you know, I only got what 42, 43 subscribers. But yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, help me and Man vs. History out. We really need it. So see ya.